I've made a monumental decision. It's been 6 years since my last fix of Wizard101. So let's go fucking buy it! There he is, on his first step to retribution.
You're terrible.
There is yet to be a game I've spent more money on and invested more time into than Wizard101. From what I can remember, I think I spent upwards of $300 on gift cards and played for 1,000 hours in the Spiral. That seems like a lot, but as a kid, fighting monsters, talking with friends, and just exploring was so mind-blowing that I didn't even notice time was passing by. And in celebration of reaching 10,000 subscribers, sorry I'm a bit late, I wanted to properly review Wizard101 and talk about my personal experience with the game. Also, I wanted to see how this title holds up after 4 years of withdrawal I've went through. I'm going to try to move beyond any nostalgic attachment I may have for this game for the sake of determining whether it was any good to begin with. So anyways, what is Wizard101 and how good is it exactly? Well, for the uninformed, Wizard101 was a free game released for the PC near the end of 2008 by Kingsdale Entertainment. While Wizard101 gave Kingsdale a positive reputation and a fairly substantial sum of money, it wasn't until Pirate 101, the sister game to Wizard 101, was released in 2012 that Kingsdale received critical acclaim. Pirate 101 even achieved the Player's Choice for MMORPGs in 2012. So yeah, it was pretty popular, but I myself never got around to trying it out. I just stuck to Wizard 101 and I was pretty content doing so. Plus, no one I knew actually played Pirates 101, so I never really had any incentive to try it. No, all of my 2 friends were really into Wizard 101. I remember the day it all started like it was yesterday. See, I had a friend over during some night in November, and she couldn't stop talking about this new free game called Wizard 101 on the computer. So, becoming really excited from all the praise she gave the game, and because I secretly had a crush on her, I booted up my computer, took a personality quiz, and became the Death Wizard Paul Ironblade. Now that I think about it a bit more, there's not a cornier name I could have chosen than Paul Ironblade. Besides maybe Palter the Dragonfly. The thing is, as a kid, I was so proud to be this wizard called Paul Ironblade and would never shut up about it in school. I was at the point that I got totally enthralled by the numerous worlds in the Spiral. Eventually, after 2 years of playing, I just stopped. I mean, I had to. Actually progressing in Wizard 101 is a lot harder than you would think. You would expect progression to be based on skill or on challenges or something, but not with Wizard 101. Wizard 101 solely relies on the player's wallet for progression. As I soon discovered, this is not a free game. It's something called free to play, which is very different. Every time you want to go to a new area to actually face more challenging monsters and advance in the plot, you have to pay a small fee to buy the area permanently with crowns, or rent all the areas for a minimum of $10 per month. This is why Wizard 101 is such a chore to play through. The amount of money you have to spend to beat the game is unnecessarily expensive. Obviously, the subscription option is a bit better of a deal here, because $10 with crowns will not get you far at all in terms of progression. But although $10 may not seem like a lot, it begins to add up because this game is pretty addicting. Pretty soon you'll find yourself playing Wizard 101 for many consecutive months and wanting other prestigious items only crowns can buy. And I'll be the first to say these microtransactions are awful. I would have happily paid up to $40 for the complete game and have the crowns earned by doing some challenging quests or something. As it stands in its current payment model, Wizard 101 is stingy. It feels like this game exists and is really long, which I'll get into a bit, for the sole reason reason of coaxing players into buying these microtransactions. And since some parts of Wizard 101 have other wizards battling against you, the wizard with the superior equipment will pretty much always win. In other words, the richest player always wins. Capitalism in a nutshell. It seems unfair to me, and I personally don't like this system, but this is perhaps one of the only major flaws in this title. I imagine that this one very important feature will ruin a lot of players' experiences and then turn them off to the game. If I was more intelligent as a kid, I probably would have realized that I was wasting a lot of cash and never would have played it again. But I was spoiled as a kid, and my parents bought me Wizard 101 gift card after Wizard 101 gift card, so I never stopped playing. So anyways, let's get into the story, which is essentially divided into two arcs. The first plotline is actually a bit more compelling than you would think. Like I said before, you take control of your own customizable wizard, who, at first, runs basic quests and tutorials given by the headmaster Merle Ambrose, who is basically the Dumbledore of the Spiral. In the beginning, you can choose from a variety of schools to specialize your magical skills in, being death, fire, storm, balance, life, ice, and myth. If you want to conform to Wizard 101 societal standards, you can take a short quiz online to determine which of the 7 schools you belong to. Or you can be a rebel and pick whatever school you want to be in. It's really all up to personal preference. You can be a storm wizard and go for absolute power, or be a death wizard and focus on mild damage while draining life from your opponent. And later on, as you get more training points, which I'll get into later, you can learn spells from other schools which allow you to balance out some of the things your school might be lacking in. For example, if you're a life wizard, you may want to become a myth or fire wizard to counter some weaknesses you might have. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. See, there's just so much to talk about here. After you pick a school, Ambrose, kind of out of nowhere, explains that an evil wizard named Drake Malistare has caused, well, great evil by terrorizing different peoples in the different worlds of the Spiral. Whether that be reawakening the mummies in Krokotopia or disrupting the peace in Mushu. But throughout your adventure to these different worlds, it always feels like you're constantly trying to thwart Malistare's plans. Sometimes you don't even know what those plans are or what he's even doing, but you still feel his ominous presence. His minions are even afraid of him, and when you defeat a boss of an area, you feel the anger it's causing Malistare. It's in the dialogue, it's in the atmosphere, it's everywhere. Hey, kinda like me. Nevertheless, every time you complete the main objective of a world, ranging from solving the murder mystery in Marleybone or curing the spirits in Mushu, you advance to the next world. And once you get to Dragonspire, you begin to realize that Malistare's plans are not as evil as they seem. Incoming spoilers, you've been warned. See, I simply adore Malistare's character development in this game. It turns out all along his wife Sylvia died at some point, causing him to drastically change. He devoted his entire life to arranging a plan to bring her back from the dead by using a huge dragon. Now, I'll be the first to ask, if this man was formerly the Professor of Death in Ravenwood and is the Grand Master Death Wizard, why can't he just use that magic to bring his loved one back to life? I know magic doesn't necessarily work like that, but I mean, come on. There must have been something else he could have done without the involvement of a massive dragon. Plus, this dragon practically destroyed all of Dragonspire and its inhabitants. Sure, Malistare is blinded by his love and grief for Sylvia, but surely he would have seen the consequences of his actions. But in the end, the player defeats him in battle and he joins Sylvia in the afterlife. The ending scene is quite touching, actually. It gives some closure on Malistare's character, showing the player that ever so popular gray and gray morality. It shows us that Malistare was not totally evil, nor was he totally good. He was just misguided and had intentions that would be viewed as evil to the Spiral. And let me just say, this type of character development is something I would have never expected from Wizard 101. The entire first narrative pleasantly surprised me. Then we come to the second story arc, which is, well, it's honestly not as developed as the first one, and it kind of feels just tacked on without much care or thought. Once again, an evil death witch named Morganthe becomes the queen of the Shadow Web, tries to fulfill the grand prophecy, and well, doesn't really pack the same punch Malistare did in the first storyline. After you beat Malistare, Ambrose is like, oh man, now there's this evil lady and you have to stop her, oh no. See, the thing you as the player is fighting against doesn't feel like it's actually worth fighting against. Morganthe's motives and character are quite shallow. I would have preferred something revolving around you hunting down stray followers of Malistare, or even you just exploring new areas and causing unintended troubles resulting in some new villain. I don't know, but anything would have been better than Morganthe. If I do have to praise this plotline for anything, I guess I do like the new areas. They have a nice aesthetic and some unique enemy design, which kind of makes the whole second arc worth playing. But by far the biggest problem with this second story arc is the fact that they brought back Malistare, a character who has already attained some peace and closure, but just has to be shoehorned in for the sake of having him there. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth fighting him again. It's mainly for this reason why I prefer the first arc over the second arc. I like to believe that the second storyline never happened, purely because of Malistare's return. But even if you just stopped after the first arc ended, I would say you had your fix of Wizard101. You might be asking yourself, why would you say such a thing? Well, because the game is freaking long. If you do all the side quests and everything there is to do in every world leading to Dragonspire, you'll easily put 500 hours into this game. Like any MMO, there's tons of things to do, but let's start with the combat. Essentially, you, as a wizard, have a customizable deck of cards that can be used to damage enemies or heal yourself or other party members. Scattered across roads of certain worlds are different enemies of varying levels. When you approach one, you get engaged in a battle with it. And sometimes, other enemies can walk into your arena and join in the fight to viciously end you. Fortunately for you, any wizard off the street can come and join the battle to help you out, or, you know, leech off of you if they need a similar item that enemy you're fighting drops. Up to 3 other wizards can come to your aid, and you can even buy more powerful wizards with crowns if you're ever struggling. See, Kingsdale does really care about making a profit. But I do like this system of encouraging enemies and fighting alongside friends. Not to mention, the turn-based combat is enjoyable and addictive, albeit slow and repetitive. Although it does get repetitive over time, I personally really like it. There's a level of strategy present since you have to save up wisps to pick more powerful attacking cards. And if you're playing with friends, you can strategize with them to defeat the enemy in the best possible way. Plus, you can better yourself by equipping and buying better items to help you in battle, which adds yet another layer of depth to the combat system. There are tons of shops around the spiral, so you'll always have the opportunity to get some new item at every step of the way. In addition to the numerous items you acquire, you can also buy, breed, train, and play games with your very own pets. These creatures are essentially glorified chow from Sonic Adventure and serve as a distraction from questing and fighting. They can also be used in battle, and the more you train them and play with them, the more powerful they become. It makes taking care of pets worthwhile, as these little guys can really come in handy when you're in a challenging fight. And that's pretty much the basics of everything there is to the combat system. While it might not sound like much, it's certainly engaging and entertaining. Facing powerful bosses or going through dungeons is thrilling and a lot of fun. The addition of friends and the variety of enemies cause the combat system to rarely get stale. One of the many flaws in the battling system is sometimes you do have to grind to make it through the tougher dungeons in, say, Krokotopia or Mushu, but if you have a friend that's at a higher level, it makes the fighting a lot easier. Plus, they can help you grind by teleporting you to more difficult locations like Celestia or even Dragonspire. Wizard101 is very much a multiplayer-driven experience. Interacting with people is by far the best element in the game. You actually feel like you're part of a community when you chat with others online. And almost everyone is pretty friendly and helpful there, which makes the online experience even better. Back in 2009, I felt like I belonged to something. It felt like I was kind of important. You see, I was notorious in those realms for being a skilled wizard, as I had reached the level cap at the time fairly quickly. I was known for being the one taking under-leveled people and helping them grind and such. I was, and still kind of am, an introvert, so I never had many interactions outside of school or in school with anyone. Wizard101 gave me that fresh of breath air that I drastically needed. I met people who had respect for me and liked me. It was a great feeling, honestly. I could go on Wizard101 after a shitty day at school and be greeted by dozens of people saying, "Yo, welcome back, Paul." However, Kingsdale decided to go all Nintendo on the online system and limited what you can and cannot say. While this makes the online system more kid-friendly, it's detrimental to those older, more mature players like myself. Let me be clear, I would definitely not want voice chat in the game, but a more unrestricted chat system would be nice. The other thing in this game that's mediocre is the questing system. See, most quests are what cause the game to get repetitive and bog down the pace. The majority of questing has the player either going through an area, then talking to someone, or defeating hordes of a specific enemy over and 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 getting a certain item. The latter being the worst type of questing I've ever done in my life. One time I had to get some type of item from a banshee, and since the respawn rates of banshees in Wizard City and the drop rate of the item are really small, I was there for 5 hours. Yes, I spent 5 hours on one quest. Sure, these quests would only seldomly happen, but when they do, it destroys the pacing of the game. What sucks even more is when these quests are required to progress the story. It seems like these type of quests are only there to pad out the length of the game, which ultimately means some of the design choices here were misguided. I can't really offer any solutions, but I think just having the drop rates of items being higher would be a lot better. Next, let's move on to the presentation, which is decent enough. I mean, the online is stable and a potato could run this game without dropping too many frames. Although the graphics aren't next-gen or anything, they aren't unappealing or jagged. The game looks fine and I really dig the art style. Character designs are great, and the amount of variation in equipment, enemy design, and themes is okay. Every location feels kind of distinct, and I especially love Celestia's underwater aesthetic and Krokotopia's ancient Egyptian feel. Everything is just so stylized, and I cannot get enough of those spell animations. They are spectacular and truly make you feel like a powerful sorcerer. Despite some long loading times, there's virtually nothing wrong with the graphics or presentation. And the same can be said for the soundtrack. Now, the music can be summed up with one word: nostalgic. This is a huge bias here, but no other soundtrack has ever made me so happy when I re-listen to it. Every time I hear the Ravenwood theme, I can picture my first day in Ravenwood, learning the dark arts and exploring everything there is to explore. And when I take this nostalgia bias away, I still find the music selection to be great to listen to. The songs are very atmospheric and ambient, which is great for this type of game. That being said, some songs do tend to overstay their welcome, like the main theme in Mushu, which I'm not particularly fond of. Another thing I adore in this game are the sound effects. It's trivial, I know, but I love the sound your wand makes when it charges up a spell. I love the sound that plays whenever you complete a quest, and hell, I even love the songs that play when spells start being cast. The sound design here is one of my favorites in any game I've played. Plus, I really like the voice acting. Some voice work does sound corny, but the majority of voice acting, and writing for that matter, is stellar. While I'm on the subject of writing, I do have to say some of the game's humor does make me crack up. Comedy is hard to pull off in any medium, but I feel Wizard101 does it fairly well. Also, Malistare's and Ambrose's performances are some of the best in the game, and both really emphasize their motives with confidence and excitement. You can tell these actors are really into their characters. Overall, Wizard101 is a good game. I had fun during the time playing it 6 years ago, and I still had some fun replaying it this past week. The turn-based combat is one of my favorites in any game I've played in some time, and the level of depth here for a free-to-play game is astounding. Not to mention, playing with friends is a blast, making this the best MMO I've played in a long time. This isn't all me talking from nostalgia. I sincerely think that Wizard101 is one of the best MMOs out there I've experienced. Sure, the microtransactions kind of ruin the game and it can get repetitive, but I still had fun with it. If you're willing to spend $10, give the game a whirl for a month and see if you like it, but beware, do not spend any more than $30 on this game. You may get addicted, so do be careful. Even then, I'd recommend you try the game out and just play up to the point where the free run stops. The entry fee is free, so it's harmless. So yeah, I think the game is worth some of your time. If it wasn't for Wizard101, I probably would have never gained an affinity for the internet, and I would probably not be here today talking about it in a video. So thank you guys for your support you've given me this past year. While I don't like to focus on numbers, 10,000 subscribers is a big deal to me. I would have never expected to get past 100 when I first started. Thank you all so much for your continued viewership and kindness. I owe all of my success to every individual person out there. But remember, if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. I'm interested to see if anybody else was into Wizard101 back in the late 2000s. But as always, thank you so much for watching again, and take care. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye.